The sun was just starting to rise over the airport. It was quiet, peaceful, and cold inside the terminal. Ibrahim Traore waited calmly near gate 37. He didn't wear a suit. He didn't have bodyguards. He didn't carry anything flashy. To most people, he looked like just another African traveler. But this man was not ordinary. He was Ibrahim Traoré, the president of Burkina Faso. He preferred to travel like this, humble, private, and quiet. No cameras, no loud announcements. That's how he moved. He believed in being with the people, blending in, staying grounded. His return from a diplomatic meeting in Europe was no different. He had finished important talks, discussed matters of gold, sovereignty, and Africa's future. But now all he wanted was to get home. As he walked toward the Air France flight bound for Ouagadougou, he greeted one of the airport workers in French with a warm smile. Bonjour, ça va? The worker smiled back, unaware of who he truly was. That's how Traoré liked it. He boarded the plane quietly, nodded politely at the flight crew, and took his seat in business class, row 2A, near the window. No one noticed. No one cared. Or so he thought. A few rows behind him, whispers were already starting. A senior French businessman, the CEO of a major energy company, was also heading to Burkina Faso. He was used to VIP treatment, red carpets, champagne, and first-class everything. But when he arrived at the gate, the airline told him business class was already full. The CEO wasn't happy. He didn't accept no. That's when the drama began to build. Quietly at first, just a small demand that would soon become a storm. The French CEO wasn't used to hearing the word no. He stood at the boarding gate, surrounded by assistants and airline staff, tapping his polished shoes impatiently, huffing arrogantly. I'm a strategic partner in many African projects. To him, that meant rules didn't apply. He demanded a seat upgrade immediately. The gate agents scrambled. They whispered, they checked their tablets. But the truth was simple. Business class was full. All seats were taken. Still, the CEO insisted. That's when the airline called over a senior flight attendant. She was tall, white, and dressed in Air France uniform. Her name was Claire. She wore a cold, forced smile as she walked onto the plane to fix the situation. Once inside, Claire scanned the cabin with sharp eyes, like she was hunting for something or someone. Her eyes paused for a moment when she saw a dark-skinned man in Siatue. Ibrahim Traoré sat quietly, reading something on his phone, calm as always. She looked again. No expensive watch, no assistant, no sign of power. Just a black man in a hoodie. She leaned toward another attendant and whispered, "Probably a mistake." She walked over to him, forced a smile, and said politely but firmly, "Monsieur, may I see your boarding pass?" Traoré looked up, nodded, and handed it to her. She stared at the pass, then back at him. The seat number was correct, but something inside her didn't sit right. In her eyes, he didn't look like someone who belonged there. Moments later, she returned with a fake smile, this time more direct. "Sir, I'm sorry, but we may need to move you to accommodate another passenger. Would you mind relocating to economy? We will compensate you." There it was, the insult. Quiet but sharp. Ibrahim Traoré raised an eyebrow. "And why me?" he asked calmly. "No reason, sir," she said, trying to keep her cool. "Just a small adjustment for our guest." "A guest more important than me?" he asked, voice still calm. Claire didn't answer. She only smiled. Other passengers glanced over, sensing something wrong, but no one said a word. And Ibrahim? He just sat back quietly and said, "No, I will remain in my seat." The tension had started, but the storm was still coming. Claire was stunned. No? A man like him saying no to her? She wasn't used to that, especially not from an African passenger, especially not on her shift. She forced a smile again, but her pride was bruised. Sir, I insist. This is for operational reasons, she said with a slightly colder tone. But Traoré didn't flinch. He looked her in the eye. If it's operational, then please explain why I'm being asked and not anyone else. Claire hesitated. She wasn't prepared for this kind of calm resistance. Around them, a few business-class passengers were now paying full attention. One man lowered his newspaper. A woman stopped typing on her laptop. Something didn't feel right, but no one spoke. No one dared. The CEO still hadn't boarded yet. He was being held at the gate until a seat was arranged. Claire walked quickly to the cockpit, whispered something to the captain, then returned with a decision. She didn't say a word to Traoré this time. Instead, she approached another black man in business class, then another. She was clearly targeting only passengers who looked like they didn't belong. That was her second mistake. Traoré sat silently and watched. His face was expressionless, but his mind was sharp. He was observing, calculating, listening. The humiliation didn't anger him. It focused him. A young African man, maybe in his late 20s, looked confused as Claire now pointed at his seat. You, sir, we need you to move to economy. The young man asked, Why me? Claire said nothing, only took his boarding pass. That's when Traoré stood up. Enough, he said, his voice calm but heavy with authority. You're making decisions based on skin, not on tickets. That's called discrimination. Claire turned a bit shaken. Sir, I'll have to ask you to sit down. Please don't cause a scene. Traoré looked her straight in the eyes. For a second, her breath caught. There was something about his stare, steady, fearless, powerful. But she still didn't know who he really was. To her, he was just another passenger, acting like a troublemaker. She walked off again, fuming inside. To her, this was getting out of hand. These people, she muttered under her breath in French, always making noise. The CEO was finally brought on board. Claire greeted him with extra politeness, offering him a glass of champagne. We're fixing the seating issue, monsieur, she said. Meanwhile, Traoré sat back down. He put on his seatbelt. His fingers calmly tapped the armrest. He didn't need to say a word, because soon the entire world would know what had just happened and who exactly had been insulted. Later that day, a video would go viral, one taken by a passenger nearby. It captured Claire asking Traoré to move, her voice sharp and commanding. It captured Traoré's firm but calm refusal. It showed her targeting other black men in the cabin, and it captured the moment when Traoré stood up and said, "That's called discrimination." Within hours, social media exploded. Hashtags trended. News agencies reached out. The video was played across African news stations, European channels, and international platforms. People were outraged, but also inspired. Then the identity of the man in Seat 2A was revealed. The President of Burkina Faso. Air France scrambled to respond. They issued a formal apology, launched an internal investigation, and placed Claire on immediate suspension. The French CEO, when interviewed later, denied knowing anything about what had happened. I was simply following the airline's procedures, he claimed, but the damage was done, and the message was clear. Power didn't always wear a suit, and dignity didn't need an entourage. As for President Traoré, He returned to Burkina Faso as quietly as he had left, but this time, the people knew exactly what he stood for: calm strength, unshakable dignity, a reminder that respect is not demanded by title, but earned by character,